stars. Make one wish, you're looking at a star. Swag so fresh, you can put it in the jar. And the way I change gear, you can put me in the car. I remember when me and Seif used to sneak in every concert door. Now I got my feet in. Every day is Get Friday, no weekend.
Welcome back to your favorite live YouTube sports show, not named Stuff About Sports and Go Talk with Marcus. Yes, indeed, I do have the gang here for a special episode. I have Dwayne Marcus from the Go Talk with Marcus. I have Jerm for Stuff About Sports, and I have the most hated Miami Heat fan known to man, Larry Marshall. What I also have is a defending champion Golden State Warriors that are struggling. 29 and 29 on the season. If the playoffs started today, this Golden State Warriors team would have to be in the play-in tournament. Gentlemen, there are 7 and 22 on the road. Jerm, I'm going to start with you because it's been way too long. Sorry. The Golden State Warriors in trouble.
No, they're not in trouble. We said this about them last year. They were struggling at going into the All-Star break last year, albeit they had a better record, but they still have the best. When healthy, they have probably the best starting five in the NBA. They're averaging more points per game than they did last season. They're shooting the 3-point at a better clip than they did this time last season. They average more assists. They'll be fine. They just got to get healthy. If they got to play in the play-in, I mean, you're not, other than probably this retooled Phoenix Suns team, are you confident that anybody in the West can beat the Warriors in a 7-game series? I'm not. So as long as that team has Steph and Klay and Jordan Poole and Draymond healthy, I'm not worried about the Warriors at all.
Dwayne Marcus, you buying this from Jerm, or should we really be concerned like most of us really are about the defending champions?
Who is most of us? Like sometimes Justin sends over the sheet of questions, and you just know he's added questions just for time. This is one of those questions. The Golden State Warriors are the defending champions. Like Jerm said, they were in this position last season. This is a basketball team that every year they make the playoffs when healthy. They're almost a lock to make it to the finals. There's only one team in the West that you even look at and you say, this team could beat the Warriors. It's the Phoenix Suns, your Phoenix Suns, apparently. Like, the Lakers aren't going to do it. The Clippers with Russell Westbrook aren't going to do it. The Nuggets aren't going to do it with your MVP, Nikola Jokic. The Dallas Mavericks aren't going to do it. The Grizzlies aren't going to do it. The Kings aren't going to do it. Like, there's no team in the West that has a shot to beat the Warriors other than the Phoenix Suns. The Warriors are going to be fine. Steph's missed a considerable amount of time with injury. Clay's missed some time. They're getting Gary Payton in a couple of months, although that whole trade thing has been a debacle. But he's going to come back and return to be their best perimeter defender, which is who he was last season for them. Andrew Wiggins is still playing solid basketball. Sorry, football's on the mind. He's still playing solid basketball. Jordan Poole is still playing good basketball. Klay Thompson just exploded the other day, a couple days before the All-Star break. This team is fine. We are continuously looking for ways to figure out ways to keep the Warriors away from where they live, which is the NBA Finals. The Warriors are fine. And even if they are a play-in team, they would be the scariest of the play-in teams if they happen to land in the play-in, because it's the Golden State Warriors, because it's Steph, because it's Klay, because it's Draymond, because it's this basketball team. They're fine. Justin, stop it.
Should I stop it, Larry? Are the Warriors really fine? Did I kind of overvalue 29 and 29?
Because they're the defending champions, it's, you don't want to count them out, but the evidence is the evidence. Every dynasty has to come to an end at some point. I've seen it with the Miami Heat, where we won the title in 2006 and we got swept out the playoffs the very next season with a healthy Dwayne Wade and a healthy Shaquille O'Neal, and that was the beginning. And sure, it wasn't a dynasty, but still, my point is, just because you're the defending champions and you're the quote-unquote favorite, this team is not last year's team. Steph is just as good, yes. Draymond, as Jerm said, that starting lineup is the best starting five in the league. It has the best net rating. Fine. Steph is always hurt. Klay doesn't play in back-to-backs. And then it seems like Steve Kerr has been favoring, because this team can't defend like last year's team could defend. Last year's team was a good defensive team. This team is like roughly middle of the pack, and they're shooting more threes, yes, but their 2-point percentage is way lower. They don't get to the basket. They don't draw fouls. So yeah, they're still pieces of dynasty in there, but the young kids are not. The 2-timeline thing that Bob Myers was bragging about has not worked. They got rid of Wiseman. for Gary Payton, who's not going to play, right? Moody doesn't play on a nightly basis. His spot got taken over by Ty Jerome, I guess a former Phoenix Sun player that wasn't very good. Kuminga is inconsistent. So basically, this team is just the starting lineup, and they have no depth. So, and when I look at the schedule, it's rough. Like, they have the Clippers twice, they have the Lakers twice, the Timberwolves twice.
Wait,
hold
Phoenix. On. You did call the Lakers twice in a rough schedule, though. Don't do that.
Well, no, hold on. I think the Lakers, that's another topic, but the Lakers, I think, are actually a decent team. I mean, they just beat the Warriors before the break, right? And I don't think LeBron James even played, right? So I think
that also didn't play in that game. So, I mean,
yeah, and Steph also is not going to play for another few more weeks, right? So, you know, but I think Marcus is correct, though. Even if they're in the play-in, they're going to be the most feared play-in team. But I don't think you can. They were in the play-in 2 years ago, and they lost to the Lakers, and they lost to Memphis, and they didn't make it out. So the play-in is like this kind of March Madness tournament where any given day you can just lose, right? So you don't want to be in the play-in. Even with the pedigree of the Warriors, that's not a position that you want to be in. And even if they are able to make it out, you still don't have home court advantage. And as Justin says, 7-22 on the road. I don't think these are issues that you can just say, oh, we're the defending champions. And like, there's a history of teams being in the 8th seed and 6th seed, and it's not very good. So I don't see why the Warriors, this version of Warriors, would be any different. Right?
I know we talked about this last year, going into the All-Star break and coming out. But the reason I feel like you have to be concerned now, because Larry touched on it, at least last season, the Warriors were good defensively. They are not now. And how I know they're not now, not just because it's just the stats. Draymond Green is publicly calling them out almost weekly. Please play us on defense. Please play us on defense. And now you have, because of Steph Curry's injury, and he's going to miss a couple weeks, you are giving Jordan Poole an even greater expanded role in this team. Jordan Poole is one of the worst defensive players across the entire league. Like, no, you're not playing Iguodala because of injury, age, and lack of productivity. So, like, your defense, Andrew Wiggins has been up and down this season. Your defense is compromised. You don't have any rim protection. You're terrible at the point of attack because you're playing Jordan Poole at the point guard or shooting guard position. Klay is injured and old. This team is a bad defensive team. And like Larry said, Steph is going to miss even more time. Like, if Steph was playing, right, I'd say, all right, they're going to guarantee playoffs and cause some problems. Sure. But let's look at this statistically, gentlemen. The Warriors have an offensive rating of 111.8 when Steph is on the court, which is like a top 3 offense when Steph is playing. You know how bad the team's offensive when Steph is not playing? Gentlemen, they are 99.9 when he's off the floor. Do you know how bad that is? For context, that rivals that 76ers team, Jerm 76ers team, that was tanking for Joel Embiid, or tanking and ended up with Joel Embiid. That is how bad your offense is. That's a team, that 76ers team, correct me if I'm wrong, Jerm, won 17 games or 8 games.
Trust the process.
9 games the season before that.
And I'm not here to tell you the Warriors are going to miss the playoffs. I don't think so when Steph gets back. And Steph has been playing at an MVP caliber season this year. But, gentlemen, what gives me, and I'll let you all just jump back in quickly, why should I be so confident with a team that is 7-22 on the road? So whenever they get in the playoffs, they are going on the road. This is a team that cannot defend. Like, no matter what you say Steph does and makes everyone better, they cannot defend. So why should I be confident about this iteration of the team going into playoffs?
Larry just told you the health time. They are still right now one of the 10 best teams in the NBA. Maybe in the 7, 8, 9, 10 range, but again, health. They were, and as Dwayne Marcus said, they just won the championship last year. It's everybody relax. Everybody relax now. It's okay. They are second in the league in points per game. They are leading. They have the second most points scored in this league. They will be okay. The moment Steph gets back, and this is just to get to the playoffs. And as everybody knows, the playoffs are a whole different monster. Again, what starting five or what team do you trust that will beat this Warriors team in a 7-game series other than your, thank God for Kevin Durant, Phoenix Suns? Because you guys were in some serious, you want to talk about trouble. It should have been like, hey, if the Suns didn't get Kevin Durant, were we going to be in trouble? But now everything's good. So do you trust the Mavericks with Kyrie Irving, even if he makes it to that far with the Dallas Mavericks to beat the Warriors? No. Do you trust the Nuggets? Hell no. Do you trust the Timberwolves? Do you trust the Lakers, the Clippers? No. You don't trust any of these other Western Conference teams other than Phoenix. That's why, if anything, even though we've all provided stats for you, if anything else, it's the lack of real competition in the West is why the Warriors will be okay.
And the only reason why we're giving the nod to Phoenix the way that we is because we expect Kevin Durant, when he recovers from his injury, when he finally plays basketball for the Suns, to be the difference maker for the Suns the way that we expect him to be, as far as being the closer for them, which is what they desperately need, among other things. But also, like, this is the Golden State Warriors. Like, outside of Phoenix, who is a question mark because it's a what if as far as if it actually works, there's only one team in either conference that you look at and you say actually has a shot at beating the Warriors. That's the team they beat in the finals a couple months ago, the Boston Celtics. And that's because they're the best team in basketball. Like, that's it. Like, the Bucks aren't beating them in a 7-game series. I think the Sixers are great, and I think they'll give them some bump, but I don't think the Sixers can beat them in a 7-game series. Jerm's already ran down the whole entire list of the Western Conference. There's no other team in the East that's not in Boston, that's not in Milwaukee or Philly that even have a shot. Like, this is the Golden State Warriors we're talking about. And Justin, you always do this. You always give us these stats about offensive rating. Dude, when your best player's not playing basketball and he's as prolific offensively as Steph Curry is, your offense isn't going to be great. Like, if Nikola Jokic stops playing basketball for a couple weeks, the Denver Nuggets, let you tell, are going to be one of the worst teams in basketball. If your other guy, Giannis, stops playing basketball for a couple weeks, which he might do because he still has his wrist injury, the Milwaukee Bucks aren't going to have one of the best offenses in basketball. Like, any team whose best player is as prolifically offensively as Steph Curry is, if they're not playing for an extended period of time, the offense stinks. Like, that's how it works. That's how basketball works now. That's how basketball worked yesterday. That's how basketball always worked. So save me the spiel about the drop-off of offensive rating and comparing it to the tanking Sixers, because that's just how basketball works, bro.
But hold on then. But we're talking about not a playoff team. We're here talking about a champion team, right? Because the Golden State Warriors
Your
are
best
not
players not playing basketball,
right,
Justin.
Wait, hold on.
The drop off to be from great offense to historically bad. Like, I wouldn't expect that if this is a championship team.
What I would say is that even during the KD years, from the beginning of this dynasty, the Warriors have always struggled when Steph has been off. Even when they had KD, when KD was the lone warrior and he was carrying the offense still wasn't very good. But besides that point, have you guys seen the Warriors this year? Like, yes, Steph has missed 20 games, and they are 9-11 in these games, which means obviously they're 20-18, and they're not like dominating the league when Steph plays. They're still a 500 team when Steph plays. So it doesn't mean that when Steph comes back, magically we're just going to go on this run. Like, no team has feared them all season long, and they haven't gotten better at the trade deadline. So they're extremely small because Draymond and Looney are their only bigs.
They were small last year, and they won a championship. Like, this whole small thing isn't new. They were small last year. Going into the finals, one of the things we always said was, Rob Williams going to give him some trouble because they're small, and then he's ferocious. They were small last year, and they ended the season as the NBA champions. They're small this year. Whatever. Like, I'm not saying that they're going to dominate.
And Draymond is a year older.
That's fine. Right, so I'm not saying they're going to dominate. What I'm saying is it's the Golden State Warriors, and there's no team. You believe in the Sacramento Kings? Yeah, they're going to light the beam out of the play-in. Let's be serious here.
Nope.
I'm not believing in the Jazz. I don't believe in the Lakers. I don't believe in the
No one named any of those teams.
But what I'm saying is we're not talking about the Lakers. We're not saying the Warriors aren't in trouble because Steph's going to come back and they're going to go to dominating the league because they weren't dominating the league before. What we're saying is they're not in trouble because look at what's around them. Like, there's nothing legit around them aside from the Suns, and the Suns could crash and burn. They could. That could not work. It could.
So could the Warriors. I mean, Wiggins hasn't been good this year. Jordan Poole hasn't been good this year. And guys like Gary Payton, to Justin's point about the defense, where are their defenders? DiVincenzo, sure, he's good offense. I mean, he's kind of good defensively too, but again, he has to play small forward. Like this team, in my opinion, doesn't have the defensive
right. And
manpower to sustain a run in the playoffs. Not to
that's
me.
the thing. That's the difference between last season and this season, right? And just to close out this topic quickly, Larry did mention the end of the schedule, right? So they have like 24 games. Thankfully, half of those are on the road and half at home. But even when you look at their home schedule, gentlemen, they have the Bucks, the Suns, the Pelicans twice, the Timberwolves twice, the Clippers, and the 76ers. This is not exactly, a run the gamut situation, but we could go on and on. Dwayne, you haven't written off the Golden State Warriors as yet, but looking aside from the Golden State Warriors, is there a team that we should be keeping our eye on for the second half of the season?
Not to placate Neil, I mean, we all know how I feel about Neil, but the Los Angeles Lakers are a team worth looking at, I think. This is a basketball team that obviously revamped their entire roster for the most part, which is something that's not uncommon on LeBron James teams heading into the trade line, the deadline, and heading into the All-Star break. You have D'Angelo Russell, who's been playing great basketball. I'm not going to sit here and tell you that the Lakers are going to make a run at it. I'm not going to sit here and tell you the Lakers are going to be they're going to completely turn the season around these next 20 some odd games. What I am going to say, though, is that the Lakers could win some games down the stretch and can put themselves in favorable position to at least make the playoffs. And then who knows? Like LeBron James in the playoffs is one of, if not the greatest playoff performer we've ever seen. Like we know who LeBron James is in the playoffs. This is the better team shooting. They still leave a lot to desire defensively. I won't disregard that, but I do think the Lakers are a team to look at. The only other team I really care about in basketball is the Dallas Mavericks. And it's because it's Luka, it's because it's Kyrie. I think that's a magical duo, no pun intended. They obviously leave a lot to be desired defensively, but if those two can work together and can make it work, which so far in the very short sample size that they have made it work. They've been one of the most prolific duos in basketball already this season in like the 1 or 2 games they played together. The question for the Mavericks, of course, is can the offensive potency of Luka Doncic and Kyrie Irving overcome some of the defensive struggles and some of the better defensive teams they might see? I still think the answer is yes. But I mean, a lot of people think the jury is still on that, but that's it.
I like that. Jerm, a team not named the 76ers.
Yeah. I will go with another LA team that gotten better today, and that's the Clippers. Let's see if this Russ thing, if Russ, highly motivated Russ, who is probably going to start for the Clippers, he actually has a team that actually has shooters, actually has spacing, both where he averaged 2 or 3 seasons of triple doubles when he was with the Oklahoma City Thunder. Same makeup, better players, reunited with Paul George. We'll see. LA's gotten a lot more exciting. I think the Clippers are the best team in Los Angeles right now, top to bottom. I do. I think the Clippers are a better team than the Lakers because of Russell Westbrook. I think that whole thing, personalities, everything that happened behind the scenes that you hear about with Russ and the vampire comments and things of that nature, that was never going to translate well on court. But now that he's with, again, Paul George, a player that he's played with before, Kawhi Leonard, I think things will work out, and I'm very excited to see what happens with the Clippers this season.
Your Miami Heat team just added Miles Leonard. Does that? No one cares about that. Is there a team?
What? We added Kevin Love, right?
Oh yeah, and Kevin Love.
The bones of Kevin Love.
Oh no, we added Cody Zeller.
You bolstering that front court. Realistically, is there a team that we should be looking at for the second half of this season heading into the playoffs?
Well, Jerm took my answer, and when you sent the questions earlier today, I was like, oh yeah, easy Clippers. They upgraded at trade deadline. They added Bones Highland, Eric Gordon, Mason Plumlee. Their last 2 games against the Warriors, and they destroyed Justin's Phoenix Suns right before the All-Star break, and they look very good. The new additions seem to fit very well, and seem to be saving Tylu's job, who's done a horrible job this season with rotations, but it's been a challenge. You know, Kawhi hardly plays, Paul George hardly plays. Maybe can't blame him too much. But then I saw the reports that this signed Russell Westbrook, and Jerm's point remains, it's going to be interesting to watch because for better or for worse, you know that after every game, Russ is the only player in the league where after every game, you have posts on Twitter about, oh, he had a good game. He only had 6 turnovers this game. And then the next game, he has like 5 assists. It's like, you see, he made that good pass to Kawhi Leonard for a dunk. Is like, you know, either way, it's going to be interesting. I think the Clippers are going to be a team to watch. And I agree with everyone. They're the best team in LA. I mean, they always were, even before the trade deadline. Kawhi and Paul George, when healthy, the Clippers have an extremely good record, a good net rating. So it's going to be interesting. I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, this is going to get boring because I was going to say the Clippers and the addition of Russ will make this interesting. I think it could work if you bring Russ off the bench and, you know, avoid having to share the court with Kawhi and Paul George for extended minutes. But I won't harp on the Clippers since the two of you just before me did that. I will say the Clippers did enter the All-Star break, winning 10 of the last 14. So that's something to be talking about. And a team to look at, for better or for worse, for me then, I'll shift gears slightly and go to the Milwaukee Bucks. Simply because they seem to have finally gotten healthy and they rattle off 12 straight wins. Though the problem is now Giannis with that wrist injury, we don't know how long he will be out. How serious will that wrist injury be? And you were thinking Milwaukee was ready to challenge Boston for the number 1 seed in the East because they're only a game back. And then this happens, and they're about to get back Bobby Portis. But I think it is going to be weird to see what happens with Giannis because I've always felt talent-wise, right? I know everyone loves Boston, but in terms of top-end talent, when you're talking with the best player in the league, for me, who is Giannis Antetokounmpo, I've always felt that in a 7-game series where both teams are healthy, and I know Larry's going to give me a side eye, I'd take Milwaukee over Boston just because you have the best player in the league. But, you know, Milwaukee's going to be a curious case going forward. You have to know what is going to happen with that wrist injury. Bobby Portis is now coming back. And the big question mark for me is what or which Chris Middleton are the Bucks getting? Because it's just been like one good game, one bad game, not playing back-to-backs, not making back into the starting lineup. Like, it's curious what is going on with Chris Middleton, and especially considering if there's one team that does not give you an extended injury report on their players, it is those Milwaukee Bucks. So is there something more going on with Chris Middleton? Is Giannis's wrist injury serious? And as the last report, I think he's heading to New York to get a second opinion. So time will tell.
You also forgot Jay Crowder.
Oh, yes, the addition of Jay Crowder. I know a lot of teams.
How could Justin Marvel, of all, forget Jay Crowder, who let Justin Marvel tell it, is the engine behind a lot of teams that made it to the finals. You are ridiculous. You're ridiculous.
No, but he really is. Like, whether we want to laugh or not, whether we want to joke about Jay Crowder or not, let's look through his recent.
Neil, get your man, bro. Neil, get your man, bro.
Hold on. Let's look. Larry will tell you about the boost that he gave Miami.
Yep.
He lifted and helped the Utah Jazz to finally become something while they were still the Utah Jazz with Donovan Mitchell and Rudy Gobert. Cleveland Cavaliers, yes, obviously it's LeBron James, but again, he was there on a team that went to the finals. And you look at the Phoenix Suns, helped to change the culture in our team, and I'm sure I'm missing one more. Oh, right as Boston started to become with Jayson Tatum and Jaylen Brown, he was there for that initial run of success. Whether we think that his contributions are minimal or not, like, you can't ignore the fact that this man has been on a run of teams that have been in finals or deep in the playoffs. Like,
Jay Crowder is the epitome of right place, right time. That's like giving Pat McCall credit for winning 3 straight championships a couple years ago.
Yeah, but that's
Justin.
That's with 2 teams. Like, Jay Crowder, whether you like him or not, you have to admit this man sets cultures. So, like, are we going to ignore the fact he was in Miami, he was in Utah, he was in Phoenix, he was in Cleveland, he was in Boston? Like, there is a reason, even if we don't believe that his contributions are major, there's a reason that these title contending teams keep going after him. Forget what you think he does on the court. Why are these teams continually eyeing Jay Crowder? Why is he not out of the league? Or why is he not playing with a team that is, playing for a number one overall pick?
I'm not saying
same reason. He's PJ Tucker with dreadlocks. Same reason PJ Tucker's scraggling around on the Sixers.
Okay, and people love PJ Tucker. Look at what the Heat look like without him. Like, I wish we had him back.
I'm not saying Jay Crowder's a scrub. I'm not saying Jay Crowder's bad at basketball. He would drop 100 on me in a heartbeat. I acknowledge that. I'm just saying this incessant need you have to push this Jay Crowder propaganda like he's the reason why these teams are making deep playoff runs. I think, to me, it's a bit far-fetched. But I mean, bro,
I'm not saying he's the reason, but it can't.
No, you've literally argued me down about him being.
I'm just saying it can't be a coincidence that all these deep runs come with Jay Crowder on the team. Well, let's actually talk about real stars because, well, it's not actually one. Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving finally left Brooklyn and find themselves in the Western Conference on two supposed title contending teams. So, Larry, Kevin Durant with the Phoenix Suns, Kyrie Irving with Dallas Mavericks. Who goes deeper in the playoffs and why?
What I'm going to say, I mean, this shouldn't come as any surprise. I think the Phoenix Suns. Okay, let me give the boring answer. Oh, it depends on matchup. If Phoenix gets placed against Denver and blah, 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 it doesn't matter. I think, funny enough, it would be great if both of these teams played against one another, like a rematch of last year, so Chris Paul can hit like a huge three to cut the deficit to 42. But be that as it may, obviously, I have to go with the KD Suns. I mean, the team has more talent. They're better coached. They're playing better right now. And I mean, like Kevin Durant I still think he's on the same level as Luka. Luka's more durable. He's younger. But I think KD's style of play is going to allow Phoenix Suns to be a better overall team than the style of play that the Mavericks are going to play with Luka and Kyrie. Because I suspect the two games that I watched them play against the Kings and the Timberwolves, if I remember correctly, it seemed like, and I'm sure they're going to gel better come playoff time, but it seems it's like more your turn, my turn. There's not a lot of fluidity, and Jason Kidd is not exactly the most dynamic offensive coach, but he's more of a defensive coach. And personally, I don't think, as I think Marcus mentioned earlier, they don't have the defensive pieces all around. So I think that's like where the Mavericks are going to falter this season. But going forward, which is another topic, I think given the offseason, the management is going to be able to craft a better roster around the two stars, if Kyrie Irving is still there, of course. But I think I need to give them an offseason first before I can just say that they're going to have success in the playoffs. I think Phoenix is a more well-rounded team. They have a starting center that's capable, a starting point guard, and a top 10 player in Booker, I think we said last time it was on. So I think that is the reason why Phoenix is going to do better than Dallas in the playoffs this year.
Jerm, is it possible that Dallas Mavericks can find a way to pair their two superstars and actually go further in the West than the Phoenix Suns?
I'm only going to say no because Kevin Durant's on the team. The Dallas Mavericks were in the Western Conference Finals last year, no? With Jalen Brunson. The only change of that team is that Kyrie Irving's there instead of Jalen Brunson. Kyrie Irving's better than Jalen Brunson. I wouldn't be shocked if both these teams, depending on how it lays out, ends up in the Western Conference Finals. The difference is Kevin Durant's the best player on the planet, period. He's the best scorer. He's the most unstoppable force in the league. And so can Chris Paul, shoot enough Toradol in his paper knees to make it through the playoffs? And can Devin Booker get healthy? Can it take his eyes off Kendall Jenner long enough to focus on winning a title? I don't know. I know Kevin Durant's going to show up, and I think that is always going to be enough. What are you going to do when you got Devin Booker on one side, Kevin Durant on the other, with Chris Paul bringing the ball up? The only issue is depth. I hate to bring it up to matchups, but matchups matter in the NBA more than any other sport. So I wouldn't be shocked. I'll say, not to sound like I'm hedging my bet. I wouldn't be shocked. I do think the Mavs, Luka and Kyrie together. Luka, we just off air talked about it. Top 5 player. Kyrie's somewhere in the top 10 or flirting with the top 10 somewhere. But Kevin Durant is just that guy, and the Phoenix are a good team, and so I'm going to lean towards Phoenix simply because of Kevin Durant. No shade towards the Mavericks. It's just Kevin's a big difference maker.
Same question. Is it a no-brainer that the Phoenix Suns are going to finish further in the playoffs, or are we overlooking Dallas?
No, it's not a no-brainer that the Phoenix Suns are going to. This is the same Phoenix Suns that has a history of collapsing and just overachieving, like well beyond their reach, fighting above the weight class. So it's not a no-brainer that they'll make it farther. I wouldn't be shocked if they don't make it farther than the Dallas Mavericks, to be completely honest with you. I think they will. It is against my religion as a KD fan not to think that they will. To echo some of the sentiments of Jerm, I've been telling Justin this for the past 2.5 years now. Kevin Durant's the best player in basketball. I don't know why we keep doing this thing and try to name other players that's not Kevin Durant. I don't know why we keep doing that. But like, Kevin Durant's the best player in basketball. He's the best scorer in basketball. There's no one I would pick before Kevin Durant if I'm just all the players available. Well, maybe Luka or JT just because they're younger. But like, if I want to win a championship right now, I'd take Kevin Durant. Anyway, the Suns should go further because it's Kevin Durant, because it's Chris Paul, because of Devin Booker, because of Monty Williams, and because they have set that standard that this is a team that's supposed to be competing for a championship. That's the standard that they have set. However, they've also set a standard of collapsing a lot when it matters most. And if I had to put money on it, I would put money on the Phoenix Suns because I think on paper they are the better team. But I do think we are overlooking the Dallas Mavericks a little bit. Like, I don't think Jayson Kidd gets enough credit for what he does as a head coach. I think Jayson Kidd proved, especially in that Western Conference Finals series last season, that Jayson Kidd is I'm not going to say phenomenal, but he's a great head coach, and he made a lot of adjustments and he made things work, and it resulted in them obviously advancing to the Western Conference Finals against the Phoenix Suns or against the Golden State Warriors, and just being able to get the Mavericks that one game that they got in that series. Like, Jayson Kidd's a great head coach. He's not on the level of Monty Williams, of course, but now, the Suns should make it further because they're the better basketball team, but I wouldn't be surprised if the Mavericks make it further just because the Mavericks always play free-form basketball. Like, just go out there and it's like pick up at the park with them. Like, just go out there, play basketball, let it fly. Whatever happens, happens. And sometimes that results in them overachieving. The Suns have way too many expectations, and this is a team that's expected to win a championship now because of Kevin Durant, and that could be too much pressure on a team that's failed to win a championship once before and completely collapsed last season. They were supposed to go back and probably win another. So it's tough, but I'd take the Suns.
Like, sorry to hedge my bets, but I think it does depend on matchups. Because, as y'all mentioned, let's say, for argument's sake, and they're currently 4-5. So let's say they draw each other. Who's to see what happened last season doesn't happen again? Simply because I don't know that I would hope Monty would adjust now to what Dallas does offensively, because you sat down and watched Luka completely terrorize us. And I had that series going to 7. Obviously, I had my Suns winning, but it didn't shock me, the result, simply because, I am not sure about our defensive game plans against players that are ball dominant like Luka. And what kind of makes it worse now is that you no longer have a Mikal Bridges or Jay Crowder to put on a Luka Doncic in that matchup. But you're gone. Like, you're going to have to play Torrey Craig a ton of minutes if you were supposed to have that matchup. And I like Torrey Craig to a point, and at least this season he's shooting above 40% from behind the arc. So maybe he justifies playing, being a stretch 3-and-D guy. But I fear for a matchup against Dallas. The only consolation, I guess, is that Dallas is as compromised defensively as we are now. Like, you're playing 2 minuses in that backcourt in terms of Luka and Kyrie. So where they can target Chris Paul, while we can target their 2 bad players as well, defensively at least. I don't like the defensive manpower, as Larry brought up, for both teams. I'll go, obviously, because Phoenix has more firepower. Like, you have Kevin Durant, you have Devin Booker, 2 top 10 players in my estimation, as opposed to 1 in Luka, although Kyrie Irving is a top 10 talent. Then there's Chris Paul, and we know Chris Paul in the playoffs. I don't have to touch on that. I just don't like a matchup with Dallas where they can simply target DeAndre Ayton, where Luka can roll and attack him because he's bad, or let's attack Chris Paul because those are two minuses on the defensive end of the floor. And I don't like the three-point shooting that we've lost in terms of losing Cam Johnson, in terms of losing Mikal Bridges, and obviously Jay Crowder, who didn't play a game this season, but that's still a huge loss. I'll still go with us, but there is one slight problem that I know Larry and I talk about off screen that a lot of people don't talk about. And there may be some gelling issues with this Phoenix Suns team because when you look at their three best players, Chris Paul, Kevin Durant, and Devin Booker, all three are mid-range scorers. That's where all three want to score from. Like, there's not to say that they cannot shoot from three, but we've seen it enough. Teams are willing to live with that mid-range scoring because, again, A is a numbers problem and B, well, kind of a bit of a spacing issue. Good players know to make things work. So, yeah, I'll lean towards Phoenix. But if they're up to play Dallas, I'd be
Justin, I think you're scarred too much by last season's results. This Dallas team is not last year's team. They didn't just replace Jalen Brunson with Kyrie Irving. If they did, sure. They lost Spencer Dinwiddie, they lost Finney Smith, and those were huge contributors. They now have Christian Wood that your guy, Jason Kidd, hates to play because he is terrible defensively. So I feel like Dallas, yeah, they have like the backbone of a contending team, but they don't have like the pieces around fully formed. Like, it's Luka, it's Kyrie Irving, but there's not much else. There's nothing else that scares you. They surround Luka with enough shooting like they did last year, and I don't think so. And even on the other end defensively, like, who's going to guard KD? I mean, Ayton, we crap on Ayton all the time. I think Ayton will probably average like 30 in that series. Like, probably not, but still.
Dallas last season was extremely small, and Ayton did not average 30 against them. So
yeah, but he didn't play against Christian Wood. Christian Wood is literally like, he is the Jordan Poole of front court players. This Dallas team is interesting, but I don't think. I mean, come on, these guys know Kevin Durant is a stud. Like, Kevin Durant is not losing to this Dallas team. Nowhere.
I'm with you, but I said we'd win Game 7, and well, guess what?
Justin, you're wrong all the time. So
no. Will we be right though on Kyrie Irving staying in Dallas or not? Jerm, is this just a 30-game rental, or can we possibly see Kyrie Irving actually staying in Dallas?
Yeah, it's a 30-game rental. He's said multiple times that he's going to LA to play with LeBron, that he wants to play with LeBron. He's going to LA. That's where he wants to go. He's been trying to get there for 3 years now. If they win a championship and for some reason he falls in love with Dallas, could it happen? The problem with Kyrie is he's wildly unpredictable. You never know. Tuesday can come around and he may want to go climb Mount Everest. We don't know. And he'll miss the rest of the season. Nobody knows what this guy's really thinking. The only thing consistent about Kyrie Irving for the last couple of years is that he's always mentioning LA. He's always mentioning playing with LeBron again. And one thing we do know about Kyrie, he's always going to do what he wants to do. And if he wants to go play with LeBron in LA, he's going to LA.
Dwayne, is he headed LA, or could he actually be signed with the Dallas Mavericks?
This is the other question on the sheet that I looked at and said he's just doing this for time. Yes, Justin, he's going.
I agree.
He's going to LA, Justin. You know this. I don't know why we're wasting the good people at home's time that's watching this talking about whether or not it's the Dallas Mavericks we're talking about. He's not staying in Dallas. Like, we have two options here. I can stay here in Dallas and maybe win some games and get bounced in the playoffs, or I can go to LA, play with LeBron, play with AD, be in Los Angeles, and possibly win a championship. Yeah, I'll go to LA. Like, why are we doing, Justin? Why are we doing this? Why are we doing this? I think we need to have someone start vetting the questions you put on the show each week. Because
so, Larry,
twice now you've done this.
Are you saying, Larry, there's no chance at all then? Because that's what I'm getting from Jerm and Dwayne. There's no chance that Kyrie Irving stays in Dallas. That's what we're.
Oh no, I thought the question was kind of ridiculous, but my take is the opposite take. I think he's for sure staying in Dallas. The reason he left Brooklyn was a purely financial move. Like, he wanted an extension. He wanted to stay in Brooklyn. And the reason why he demanded a trade was because they weren't willing to give it to him. Kyrie and his agent, they are looking for a long-term security. Now, you might ask, oh, so why can't he get in LA? Well, Kyrie had the opportunity to be a free agent last offseason, right? And he could have gone to LA, but LA doesn't have cap room to sign. They could only offer him, I think, probably like the minimum or something. And nothing has changed. They traded Westbrook for players under contract next season. So their cap space aspirations are gone. So there's no leverage for Kyrie to say, well, you trade me to LA or else I'm just going to sign there. Well, if you want to sign with LA, you're going to have to take a $30 million pay cut. So he may not want to stay in Dallas long term, but the fact of the matter is, if he wants to get to LA, it has to be if he wants to go to LA and get paid, he has to play the game, resign in Dallas for big money, and then do something crazy, and then they could probably trade him down the road. But as in terms of just, deuces Dallas, I'm gone straight to LA via free agency, I don't think that can happen. And I think Kyrie's interested in getting paid before he's interested in going to LA.
That's why I brought you on the show, because I know that you would have brought up that point. Because it's easy for us to say, yeah, he wants to play LeBron. He said it multiple times. He said it on I Am Athlete. He said, if you had a chance to do it all over again, where would you be? And he said he would be in LA with Bron. He publicly, in Boston, apologized to LeBron for what he did in Cleveland, not understanding, what LeBron would have been telling him. He's, come out and demanded a trade this season. And one of those targets, as we know, was in LA. But as Larry rightfully points out, if he didn't get traded to LA, how is LA going to absorb Kyrie Irving unless he is willing to take a $30 million pay cut? Now, is Kyrie Irving a guy that wants to win at all costs and willing to sacrifice that money? Problem is, guys, probably not. Because what we also fail to mention is that Kyrie just lost his Nike contract due to all the nonsense that went down in Brooklyn. So it is not to say that, I have these endorsements I can lean on to supplement the loss of money in terms of contract. He doesn't. And for whatever Kyrie Irving says, and I don't knock on him as much as other people will do, because I think genuinely he's a good person at heart. I think he means well. He just may be a bit misguided in certain situations. But if he's altruistic enough to turn down or take a $30 million pay cut, gentlemen, I don't know. The team that can offer him the most money, obviously, is a team that he is currently with. I think, guys, we may see a situation that Kyrie Irving may not be a 30-game rental. And I honestly thought it was a foregone conclusion for him to pay in LA, but how is LA going to pay him? You just took on guys with non-expiring contracts. Like, we may be seeing this Kyrie Irving, Luka Doncic pairing for quite a while going forward. Kyrie Irving does Kyrie Irving things, and Dallas finds another reason to trade him. Speaking of trade, Dwayne Marcus, we saw one of the busiest, if not the busiest, trade deadline in the history of the association. But there's always the off season. So we saw Kevin Durant move, Kyrie Irving move, along with a ton of other players. I think in grand total there were 15 trades. Who is the next star, in your opinion, that is going to get moved?
Define star for me, please.
Fair enough. We're talking along the level of, I want to say, top 20 player.
No top 20 players are going.
Yeah.
No, if you run down the list of the 20 best players in basketball, they are first of all half of them have just signed extensions with whatever team they're on. We're talking Curry, we're talking Giannis, Luka. If he hasn't already signed one, is going to sign one this year. KD just got to Phoenix; he's not getting traded again. So we're talking top 20 players. None of them. The only players I'm looking at that could possibly be traded are one of those players in Chicago, whether it's Zach Lavine, whether it's DeMar DeRozan. That has to be done tomorrow. Like, it has to be. And I'm being facetious because it can't be done tomorrow, but like, that has to be one of the worst pairings of two players in the NBA today, as far as just like dynamic duos. Like, it's just not working. And I know a lot of it had to do with injury. Like, Lonzo Ball's missed a lot of time because of injury. I know Alex Caruso has been in and out of the lineup for the past 2 years because of injury, but like DeMar DeRozan, number one, has massively raised his stock, and he's raised his stock not because he's had to, but not because he's improved that much, although he has, but also because like he's had to, because no one's been there. Like, DeMar DeRozan has had to put this team on his back for almost 2 seasons now. Like, whether it's DeRozan or whether it's Lavine, I think one of those two players are going to be traded in the offseason. Where? I don't know. Maybe to some other team in the East. Maybe they get sent to a team in the West. I don't know. But I do think, though, that Zach Lavine or DeMar DeRozan is going to be one of the first 2 players traded. If you think that they're top 20 players, then I guess that's their answer. But when I think of top 20 players, all the guys I'm looking at that are top 20 players, like, they've already signed extensions or are eligible for extensions this season, and they're going to take them. Like Jayson, Tatum, Giannis, Jokic, Luka, guys like that. They're not going anywhere. They've either just found new homes or they're very, very comfortable with where they're at. But Zach Lavine or DeMar DeRozan, I would be utterly shocked if either they're not traded or if they don't at least request a trade over the summer. Because that experiment, that Lavine-DeRozan experiment in Chicago is done.
Let's push it out then to top 30. Jerm, any possible star you can see moving, or at least who is the next one that you think is going to be traded?
So I was when I looked at this question, I brought back my list. I looked at not only people who were going on expiring contracts in the 23-24 season, but more likely the 20, because nobody gets traded in the very last year, unless like the Kyrie thing is a little different. You usually look a year ahead to these things. So then I look at guys like OG Anunoby is probably one that might get traded. Tobias Harris, just because, the Sixers probably at that point, with James Harden getting another year older, Tobias is the most valuable trade piece they have. Vucevic from Chicago, I had. But again, stars, like borderline all-star or all-star type players. But as far as like stars go, one that was interesting to me that has a contract expiring in 24 is Klay Thompson, where we talk about the Warriors thing, not working out, or is this the end? It's probably closer to the end than it is the middle. But so if you're the Warriors, you start looking past the Draymond years. He probably doesn't have much time left. If he has a season or 2 left, I'd be shocked because he has a bright future in TV. Klay Thompson, he's a great player. Not exactly the guy he was before his ACL injury. But so again, much like the Tobias Harris situation, great, fantastic player. Would love to have him on your team. But money, contracts, business may dictate that you move off him to kind of recoup and start the jumpstart and rebuilding your franchise. So as far as like superstar players next year, the only one I could think of is like OG Anunoby, Fred VanVleet. I don't know if I call them stars. They're all-star caliber. And then, the Tobias Harrises of the world, the Chris Middletons of the world. But then when you actually look at like star players, maybe not next season, but looking for the 24 season, probably Klay Thompson is the one that makes the most sense.
And real quick, just before you ask Larry, I do want to say this too. And there's always these 2 players are always on trade watch, whether it's request trade or getting traded every offseason. It's Dame Lillard and it's Bradley Beal. Like, they're always just from the
not
public.
Bradley Beal.
No, not Brad. Like, from the public, everyone's like, oh, Brad needs to request a trade. Dame needs to request a trade. Like, Brad, especially not because he just re-upped like just this past summer, so he's not going to request a trade now. Is it possible that maybe Dame finally says, I'm done here? Like, either make a legitimate effort to build around me? Because I think sometimes we forget that this is a Portland Trailblazers team that just a couple years ago was in the Western Conference Finals. And if it weren't for their own incompetence and being able to close out games, they got swept, unfortunately. But like that was a team that was there. Obviously, CJ McCollum's not there anymore, and so that team has like. I feel like we could be looking at a situation heading into the summer where Dame says, either you guys make a legitimate effort to actually put players around me and build around me so that we can compete, or I'm done. Because Dame's a great player. Me personally, I think Dame's a top 10 player in basketball. At the very least, he's top 12. But like, and I don't mean like just, I know we were talking before the show, like just like this season. I mean, this season he is too, but just overall, if you want to rank the 10 best players in basketball, I think Dame's definitely on that list, and he proves it every time he's on the floor when he's healthy. I think Dame is finally starting to get to his point because, I don't know, the type of man that Dame is, I don't know how often he's going to be willing to kind of express his undying loyalty to Portland, and then they continue to make him look like a fool on the back end. I know that Dame wants to quote unquote do it the right way, as like Giannis and say, like just do it to Portland with the team that drafted him. But like, enough is enough, and Dame might decide enough is enough in the summer. I don't know.
It's hard when you play in small market teams like Portland, like, you know, that you just can't attract free agents for whatever reason, whether the weather, you know, taxes, or the fact that Portland is just not a free agent destination. Larry's in question, top 30, top 35 player, or just basically a superstar. Can you see, or who is the next star at some point to be traded?
Well, my pick, what I had written down, what I thought about all day was basically DeMar DeRozan. I don't really have much to add to what Marcus said. He explained it pretty perfectly. But then when Jerm was about to talk, you know, started to think, and I want to be kind of mischievous here. Justin, does it just
say it, do it?
No, shush. Does it have to be traded, or can it just be like free agency? Can it just leave in free agency?
Also free,
because what Jerm failed to mention, he's mentioning all these Raptors guys, he's mentioning Vucevic, blah, blah, blah. You know who's a free agent at the end of this season? James Harden. And there are reports that James Harden wants to go back to Houston, and Houston has almost $60 million in cap space. I mean, they don't have any good players, so
good players for James Harden to play with.
Well, they have good strip clubs. I mean, maybe that's all that matters, right? I'm just saying. So, how does Jerm feel that James Harden? He only signed a one-on-one contract. He's a free agent at the end of this year. Why can't he leave? He didn't sign long-term. What's going on, Jerm?
So a couple things. One, he's already said that report was nonsense, that he did not say that. So they quickly debunked that. Two, he did it so they could bring in other players. He took a team-friendly deal so they could try to build a roster because he wants to win a championship. Now, the Sixers fail. Is there a chance he just gives up on winning a championship and goes and collects that one final big paycheck? I'm never going to say never, but all signs point that he loves it here in Philly. And they better make something happen in terms of bringing players in or winning a title, because not only will it get interesting for him, but it'll get interesting for a lot of players on the roster. But no, he would be, for James Harden to go back to Houston would be ridiculous. Like if he was to leave Philly, it's going to be a situation like the LA teams or, you know, the Phoenix situation where he's going to pal up, you know, with 2 or 3 guys and try to create a bomb squad and just give it one final push. He's not going to waste
like Katie and Kyrie.
Yeah, seriously. I mean, like he's not going to waste his final years with a team whose average age is like 23 years old. He's just not going to do it. All right, cool. James Harden goes there. They might be a play-in team now. No, he's going to go to a team that's pretty front-loaded, and they're going to make one final push, and then that'll be that. You know, he'll do the Kevin Durant thing. He'll do, like you said, the Kyrie join up with LeBron. Like he'll figure it out. But that, if anything, they'll move from Tobias Harris and bring in somebody to Philly. Hopefully, if that's the move there, you know, you bring in another star player to Philly, like a Bradley Beal or something. But you know, no, James Harden's not going back to Houston. That's ridiculous.
It was
one more thing. If it
doesn't work, hold on. If it doesn't work, if Harden just leaves, you know, Matt McClung is right there.
My man, yeah, the Great White Hope. I can't wait. Yes, sir. Mac Panther. Let's go.
One thing that just popped into my head about OG Anunoby, I think OG Anunoby might get traded this offseason. He's either going to end up in Philly or he's going to end up in Cleveland. Probably.
Let's go, baby. Let's go.
I was hoping somebody would tell me James Harden is going to opt out and go somewhere else, and then forcing Joel Embiid to demand a trade. But just
never happen. It'll never happen.
Just to upset Jerm, like, I would love that to happen. Like, you know, let's blow this all up. No Harden. Can't play with Tobias Harris forever. So when I look at this, like, the obvious is that Chicago has to blow this up. I think Vucevic is going to leave for absolutely nothing in the offseason. I think he's a free agent after this season. It makes no sense paying both Derozan and Lavine. Like, this has not worked in the slightest terms of working. It just has not. So you just blow this up, get rid of Lavine, get rid of DeMar DeRozan. I actually expect both of them to be gone, not just one. I think both. Doesn't make any sense. I'm not a guy for hot takes, but I smell something coming in the Los Angeles Lakers. And if I'm to believe the reports, I think a certain Anthony Davis is not happy at all. And I know Neil is behind there just waiting to cut my mic. But I wouldn't be surprised, right? At some stage, Anthony Davis, you hear whispers of him wanting out. I don't know. It doesn't seem like the same happy unit when he first got there. I don't know if he's upset with LeBron. I don't know if he's upset with the people not being happy he's hardly on the floor. In terms of star level players, I wouldn't be surprised if at some stage, right, LeBron or LA Lakers management says, you know what, enough of this nonsense. Let's see what we can get for Anthony Davis and quietly shopping in the background. Move on. Who knows? Maybe that's the way that you get Kyrie Irving. I don't know. So that being said, let's quickly wrap up this show. Larry, I'll start with you. Who's your finals matchup for the season?
He's so far out. I mean, so many things could change. Injuries, you know.
No one wants to hear that.
Who knows? Kevin Love could be the greatest power forward
Oh
in
my
history.
God.
Cut his mic. Cut his mic.
He
Cut
does not
his
believe
mic.
that.
Cut his mic.
I don't know. I'm just gonna go with like a sentimental pick. I'm gonna go Boston Clippers. I know there are a lot of Clippers haters on this panel. They don't believe in the Clippers. They think they think Kawhi is overrated. They think Paul George is just a playoff choker. And despite all of that being true, I think that this is, well, oh no, they have Westbrook now. They may need to rethink that. But anyways, I think this is the year that the Clippers somehow put it all together. They get the Infinity Stones, they channel it, and they make it to the finals. And Boston, they're the deepest team. They're the best team. Their player, Jayson Tatum, doesn't get injured, so they're probably going to have the number one seed. They're going to have home court. They're just a well put together squad. They can play any style. They have rim protection. They have shooting. They can switch. They're so versatile. I think, as Justin said earlier, the only team that I see potentially beating them is the Bucks. And I know me and Justin talk all the time about the issues that the Bucks have. I like the Sixers, but I don't like the Sixers in the matchup against Boston. I think Philadelphia probably has a better matchup against Milwaukee. So it's a possibility that Philadelphia can make it to the Eastern Conference Finals for once. But I think Boston just has too many weapons, too versatile. They're well coached. I don't know. Clippers, Boston. Yeah, that's my answer.
I like that. Dwayne Marcus, we are months away from a NBA Finals matchup, but give me yours.
I just want the record to reflect. The last two times I was on this show for this question, which was this time last year and this time the year before that, I told Justin who's going to make it to the finals. I told Justin who's going to win the finals. He didn't believe me, and then I was right, and I never got an apology from Justin. I just want to put that out there, that Justin doesn't apologize when he's wrong and when he makes fun of you. I want to point that out. When I came on this show after the finals a couple years ago, when the Bucks and the Suns were in the finals, and I told Justin that neither were going to go back last year, he told me I was wrong. So it was dumb. We didn't say I was dumb, but he said it was a crazy thing to say. He didn't believe me. Neither team made it to the finals. Justin does apologize. It's okay. I say all that to say, despite Justin wanting to start off the show by pushing some anti-Warriors propaganda because he's a Suns fan and KD's in Phoenix now, he needs to bolster up the Suns as much as he can. I do think we're going to get a rematch of last year's finals. I do think we're going to get Warriors and Celtics again. As I've said for much of the show, even with Kevin Durant, I still don't know 100% if in a 7-game series I could 100% say that the Suns can beat the Warriors in a 7-game series. I can't. So I'm going Warriors Celtics in a rematch of last year. The Celtics are the best team in basketball. I think they'll get their get back this year. I think they'll get it back in blood and win it all this year, especially if you think it's the Warriors. But yeah, I'm going Warriors Celtics.
Sure. Your finals matchup.
Me versus you,
Oh, yeah.
baby. Sixers Suns. Let's get it going. Let's get it going. Sixers will not dominate. Sixers will finally beat the Celtics in the playoffs in the Eastern Conference Finals. The Suns will beat the Denver Nuggets in the Western Conference Finals. And then the Sixers will lose to the Suns in 7 games in the NBA Finals. I will be realistic. Kevin Durant, only because I'm doing some reverse psychology and hope that that the Sixers will actually win. But Sixers Suns, book it.
All right, guys. So here's the thing. Since 1980, which is our last 40 titles, have been essentially won by 14 men. And I can name the 14 men for you. If we start with...
Don't.
Hold on.
Don't, bro.
And let you go.
You don't have to take every chance you get to prove that you're old, Justin. We know you're old. Just give us the finals matchup, bro.
Hold on. Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, Magic Johnson, Larry Bird, Moses Malone, Michael Jordan, Isaiah Thomas, Tim Duncan, Shaq, Kobe, LeBron James, Kawhi Leonard, Giannis Antetokounmpo, Steph Curry.
And
These
Kevin
four-
Durant. Let's not disrespect Kevin Durant.
No, I didn't put Kevin Durant in there. So
No.
these 14 men
You
have
suck.
won. These 14 men have won all but one of the last 40 titles. Those 14 men, huh? I say all that to see superstars clearly win titles. And those 14 men I called are top 30 of all-time players. Like, all of these men are top 30 all-time. Like, you're not going to find a man and bump him out. So I say that to say in modern-day basketball, you're not going to win a title without a superstar unless you were the 2004 Detroit Pistons. So, gentlemen, I do not have the Boston Celtics winning this title and not even to get to the NBA Finals, simply because they don't have one of those 14 men. And yes, they beat the Milwaukee Bucks last season. Guess what? The Milwaukee Bucks were playing without their second best player in a 3-time All-Star, Chris Middleton. And the Milwaukee Bucks still had a 3-2 advantage over the Boston Celtics. And it took every breath. Yes, Neil, I'm repeating what I said last week. It took every piece of Jayson Tatum's greatest playoff performance to force a Game 7. If the Milwaukee Bucks are healthy, gentlemen, I am going to call this now. The Milwaukee Bucks in 6 games over the Los Angeles Clippers. That is my point.
What does Jerm say about ifs? If my aunt had balls, she'd be my uncle. Stop it. You also just told me earlier in this show that Chris Middleton's been up and down all season. Now you're going to tell me that with
he's the missing
stop
piece.
It, Justin.
Stop it.
He's the
shame on you for not naming
hold on.
Kevin Durant, who has won multiple Finals MVPs over the last 40 years. If you want to talk about the last 40 years, one of the very few men over the last 40 years to do so.
He doesn't
Carried
Carried.
Steph Curry.
He was
On
carried.
his back.
He was
I'm
carried.
going to say,
Bus
because I've
driver.
not seen Kevin Durant win a title minus Steph Curry. I've seen Kobe Bryant without Shaq. I have seen
KD's
prior. I've seen
half of that
Kareem
time
prior
hurt,
to Magic.
and the other
I've
half
seen
of that
Magic.
time
I've seen
as a
Magic
puppy
without
against
Kareem.
LeBron. So
And that's why I didn't mention Larry's guy, Dwayne Wade, because Dwayne Wade won titles with Shaq and LeBron James. I have seen. So Kevin Durant, and this is no knock on Kevin Durant, but am I going to name him among those 14? I've seen Steph Curry win titles with him and without him.
Kevin Durant is better than 90%
Thank you. What
of
are
the
we
people.
talking
you just
about
listed.
right now? What are we talking about?
What is this show?
So you're saying,
You're
Kevin
ridiculous.
Durant is better than Kareem, is better than Mike, is better than LeBron James, is better than Steph Curry.
Obviously,
He's better than LeBron James. He's better than Steph
Chris
Curry.
Duncan, he's
Yeah.
better than Shaq, he's better than Magic Johnson, he's better than Larry Bird. We're saying this right now.
Yeah. Yeah. What are you
Be-
talking about?
be-
Where's the
What do you
evidence?
say?
Where's the evidence for
It
that?
is-
Where is the evidence?
Is Dan Marino a lesser quarterback than, let's say, a Drew Brees, just because Dan Marino doesn't have any
but-
Super Bowls? Or is he not one of the
What
5
accolades
greatest
does
quarterbacks to ever
Durant
play
have
the
that show
game?
he's better than
But
these
but
guys?
football and basketball.
He was a
So
Finals
all of these-
MVP
wait a second,
twice
all
of
of
the
these
greatest
guys-
Why do we keep acting like
team
why do we
ever
keep
assembled.
acting like Kevin Durant was this nobody that Steph
I
Curry
never
rescued
said
from
that.
obscurity before he got there?
Sorry.
Kevin Durant is an MVP, a scoring champion, and before he got to Golden State,
one-time
he was
MVP.
He was the second best player in basketball before he got to Golden State. And you're going to sit here and you're going to act like Kevin Durant wasn't the best player in those two. He won Finals MVP twice. You don't do that.
Hey, Dwayne, I get what's happening here. So to them, Allen Iverson isn't good either because he only has one MVP.
Of the 14 men, I just named, did any of them not win a Finals MVP? Thank you. I didn't think so.
Robert Horry has 7. Andre Iguodala has a Finals MVP.
But I didn't name Andre Iguodala.
Next question. Next thing we're talking about.
The point is, you're saying 14 men in the last 40 years have won a championship, and you're ignoring not only one of the best players in the last 40 years to have won a championship, but he's won 2 of them. He has 2 Finals MVPs, and if you're going to stack him up against those 14 men, he's better than half of them. What are we talking about?
By the way, the NBA Players Association, the NBA poll where the players actually vote on the best player, voted for Kevin Durant. Just letting you know. Just go ahead and just the players who play the game.
The obsession with taking away from Kevin Durant because of what he hasn't done without Steph Curry is ridiculous. Because we're talking about a guy who, before Steph Curry, was young, was early in his prime, and ran into LeBron James. He goes to Golden State, wins 2 championships, would have won 3 if they didn't get hurt, whatever. Why do we keep acting like post-Steph Curry, he didn't spend a year on the injury report because his Achilles wasn't together. He didn't spend a year carrying a team that was riddled with injury with Kyrie and James Harden. Didn't spend another year, let you and everyone else in the media, especially Stephen A, tell it, putting up with the nonsense and unpredictability of Kyrie Irving. So we acknowledge all of these things and all of these struggles that KD has gone through, at least post Golden State, but also in the same breath want to say, yeah, well, he's not this and he's not that because he hasn't won a championship without Steph Curry. Like, are we being serious here? We're talking about both sides of our mouth.
If you polled basketball fans and asked them, hey, you're drafting a team, who are you picking first? Kevin Durant is getting picked 9 out of 10 times over a Steph Curry or whoever else you put on. The only player people would maybe draft him over is LeBron. But I mean, Kevin Durant, without all those accolades, is still a top 12, 15 player of all time. What are we talking about here?
So y'all are exaggerating my argument. I'm not here saying that for me.
You said he's not one of the
First thing first, Kevin Durant, for me, if he retires tomorrow, is a top 20 all-time NBA player without a shadow of a doubt. Like,
he's top 15, but okay.
15.
He's probably 10, 11, 12, somewhere in there.
I will say this, right? You're acting like the 14 names I just called are absolute rubbish. These are 14 names.
No, what we're saying is he's better.
Hold on, guys. The 14 names I just called are all-time great. And I'm not here to say that Kevin Durant is not in this, in the same realm of these guys. But then when you look at these gentlemen, right, you can see each of these gentlemen are directly responsible for the titles they win. And I didn't even mention Larry's guy, Dwayne Wade, who has 2 of those titles in that span.
Does Steph Curry win those championships in 17 and 18 without Kevin Durant? The answer to that question is we don't know. Because last season,
he was 2-time Finals MVP. He was the reason they won.
But then your same point, Andre Iguodala has a Finals MVP. Is the reason.
Forget the Finals MVPs for a second. Forget the trophy for a second. The Golden State Warriors won in 15. They blew a 3-1 lead in 16 after winning the most games ever in a single season. And I can't say for certain that the Warriors are going to beat the Cleveland Cavaliers in 17 and 18. I can say that I have more faith in the Cavs winning those series if KD never comes to Golden State. Why do we keep acting like Kevin Durant isn't the reason why? The reason why we were all, as fans and as members of the media and as members of fans of basketball, the reason why we were all so upset for a bunch of us when KD went to Golden State is because we all knew KD going to Golden State virtually made it as guaranteed as you can possibly ever have in sports of a team winning a championship. KD not going to Golden State means LeBron has maybe 1 or 2 championships, and it alters the course of NBA history. So let's stop acting like Kevin Durant isn't literally the reason why the Golden State Warriors won in 17-18. Because without him, they could have lost those 2.
Before you do that, I know we got to wrap up soon. In the last 25 years, is Kevin Durant not a top 5 player in the last 25 years?
I've never said no. Go ahead, Larry.
Okay, that's
it. I just want to say that to Marcus's point, the reason why the Warriors were for sure win in the championship wasn't necessarily because, oh, KD is so great. Yeah, he is great. But the fact that the Warriors were so good without him, and when you add someone as good as him, yeah, it's going to be done. It's not like the Warriors are just a run-of-the-mill team, and you add him, and then they're the favorites. They were already the favorites, and then you add that on top of that, the team is one of the greatest teams of all time. My issue with KD isn't necessarily that he's not great. He is great, but he's not the driver of a championship team like how Kyrie is, how LeBron is, like the players that Justin named. I mean, there's the meme that says, oh, KD shows up when everything is already built. And it's kind of true. When KD was in Oklahoma City, his own team, the team built around him, he let Russell Westbrook do as he liked. And then when they lost, oh, I blame Westbrook is to blame for everything. He's subtweeting all that stuff. If you look at that series against the Warriors, KD was horrible. They blew a 3-1 lead. KD, by all rights, should have his championship in Oklahoma City, but no, he had the opportunity and he failed. And then, in order to get out of it, oh, he got 2 hobby championships. I can't rate those 2 hobby championships. Does it take away from his greatness? Not really, but I can't give him much credit, just like how I don't give Team USA players much credit for coming together and winning gold medals. Like, you're on a stacked team. Like, there's hardly any competition, right? So, and what has he done since then? Yeah, the excuses are true, but like Chris Paul gets injured every year, but no one's going to say, oh, Chris Paul is one of the top 20 greatest players ever. But he's just so unlucky. Everybody calls him a loser, a choker. He's fragile. So the same
Chris
way,
Paul's not one of the greatest, one of the 20.
And he most definitely is.
So there's the difference. Number one. Number two, this isn't excuses. He spent a year without an Achilles. He didn't play basketball.
Whose fault is that? Whose fault is that?
It's Golden State's medical trainer staff for forcing him to play basketball when they knew his Achilles was messed up. Like, what are we talking about here? What are we doing?
Well, I'm not holding that against him. I'm just
saying. You are. That's what everyone does. Steph, Kevin Durant hasn't won a championship outside of Golden State since he's left Golden State. Why is that? Because he didn't have an Achilles, because he had to carry a bad team, because he had to put up with Kyrie.
Excuses.
It's not excuses, because we spend all this time when it's to bash Kyrie, and we're just talk about how this is one of the worst big threes of all time. It's not an excuse. But when we use these exact same reasons to tear down who Kyrie is as a man and as a basketball player, we want to tear down the decision making of Kyrie and James Harden and KD to go to Brooklyn. It's not an excuse. But when we say it to explain to the facts of what has happened in Kevin Durant's life as a basketball player the last 4 years, it's an excuse. You can't talk out of both sides of your mouth. It either is an excuse or it's not.
What about before 2017? Those don't count. Only the Warriors years count.
I'm not saying they don't count. I'm not saying they don't count. But what I'm saying is we have to stop acting like Kevin Durant was a scrub before he got to Oklahoma.
No one said he was a scrub. Kevin Durant is one of my favorite players of all time. I
just told you, Kevin Durant is
about to say that's your player. That's your player now, Justin. I'm shocked.
The way y'all talk about Kevin Durant, y'all make it seem like Kevin Durant is nothing without Steph Curry, and it's just not true.
In terms of championships,
it's not. Without the championships, Kevin Durant's still a top 20 player of all time. Without the 2 championships,
yes,
okay,
but he's not. But he's not.
With the 2 championships, what does he go from being 17 to 15? What a big jump.
What about Chris Paul? Chris Paul doesn't have championships, so why can't Chris Paul be top 20? Chris Paul has a resume just as good as KD without the one. KD only has 1 MVP. 1. He doesn't have 6.
Done. KD's led the league in scoring.
So what? What scoring isn't everything.
Carmelo has led the league.
What I'm saying is Kevin Durant without the championships is still that of a top 20 player in basketball. He's got almost 27,000 points. He'd have probably closer to 30 by now if he doesn't miss all the time he's missed in Brooklyn. Like, what are we talking about? He's one of the all-time leading scorers at his position.
Have I not said Kevin Durant is a top 30 player of all time? Have I not said that? Yes, I have.
You said top 20.
Even top 20. As I'm saying here right now, let's forget the whole Kevin Durant situation because that's off kilter. The reason why I don't have the Boston Celtics, and this is to rib Marsh in the chat, making the NBA Finals or winning title because they don't have one of those 14 men. All right, let's say for argument's sake 15 to throw in Durant then. They don't have, so you're even making my argument further. Boston Celtics or any other team do not have one of these 15 men. So I can't go against 40 years of history to say the Boston Celtics are going to buck this history trend to win a title or make it back to East or the NBA Finals when you don't have one of these 15 men who have accounted for all but one of the last 40 titles. And it's probably even further back, but I was just too lazy to go further than 1980 or 1970, whatever. So I say all that to see, I have to think that either Giannis or Kawhi, probably even Durant, are going to win this title, but I can't sit down and tell you that, Tatum or Jaylen Brown are going to sit down and carry the Boston Celtics to the title, because we saw what happened last season.
They beat the Bucks last season as well.
No, and they got to finals.
They also demolished Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving in the first round.
All right, and then what happened? They ran up against one of those 15 men and lost in the finals.
That's fine, but them losing in the finals doesn't take away from the fact that they got there by beating 2 of those 15 men. So it's not impossible.
So hold on then. So then you're saying that you believe the Boston Celtics are going to buck this recent trend and win a title?
I just said 10 minutes ago, Justin, I have the Boston Celtics winning the championship this year. I just said that.
All right. So I'm glad that we have that there. Gentlemen, we've gone well over time because we got in a Kevin Durant argument that I did not foresee coming. So quickly, Dwayne Marcus, plug yourself, tell the guys what you have coming up next.
I'm not going to plug myself today because the podcast is undergoing some changes. But I will say that I am on break, so you'll probably see me here on Justin's show or on Jerm's show. My show's off until... Actually, I'll be on Jerm's show tomorrow, so if you want to see me again, tune in to Stuff About Sports tomorrow. But, I mean, you can follow me on Instagram, Twitter, TikTok at GTP Marcus. You can follow the show there for clips and TikTok challenges and the like. They're fun. The TikTok is fun here with a pen and a pad. It's fun, bro. It is.
Yeah. Never saying not. I'm just not a TikTok guy. Jerm, how do we find you? What do you have coming up next?
Yeah, we're doing a live show tomorrow, Tuesday, February 21st. For if you're listening to this, you might be a little too late, but you can go and rewatch it if you're not watching it tomorrow on the Give Us a Shot Network YouTube page. # Give Us a Shot Network in your Googles, and you will find us. Or you could just go to the new giveusashot.network website where our YouTube is actually fed right into there. So you can watch all of our content there, and you can follow me and my show at Stuff About Sports on Instagram. Like I said, # Stuff About Sports, # Give Us a Shot Network in your Googles. And if you can't find us, you're not looking hard enough.
You will find Larry on this show going forward a lot more now because we're kicking into high season with the NBA. We're going down second half, and we are all waiting for the playoff run that the Los Angeles Lakers, sorry about that, Neil, will not be making. For us, you can find us on every Monday night right here on YouTube. That's # This Just In. Please put in the hashtag. None of us want Max Kellerman and his very, very atrocious takes. But yeah, # This Just In, 7 p.m. Eastern, 6 p.m. Central. You can find our short form content on Facebook, on Instagram, and on Twitter. Again, # This Just In. Like Jerm said, if you're not finding us, you're not really looking hard enough. So for Larry, for Jerm, for Dwayne Marcus, I am indeed Justin of # This Just In signing out. Thank you so very much for watching, and we will be back here with more NBA content next Monday. See ya.
I know that after tonight, you don't have to look up at the stars. No.
Come take a look at my dream world.
Tonight, you don't have to look up at the stars.
Chat. If you wanna come get it, then come for it. I'm so clean, my kick's nice, I'm Chuck Norris. Minute made the beat bounce, had to jump on it. Run for it, run, Gump Forrest Gump like hollow pumps, you gotta jump. No trouble, no double, I got a stun. You don't have to look up at the stars. Make